Hello and welcome to the Fighting Anti-Intellectualism podcast, everybody. I'm Autumn, your host. Greg is not with us today. We have Nick. Nick's with us today, and we have Abrar. Hello, Abrar. How are you guys doing today?
Very well.
Fairly
I believe
well. Are you fine
I don't.
and dandy at the same time?
I'm fine. I don't actually know what the word dandy means, so I'm just gonna say fine. But I don't think Abrar has his mic on, so we don't actually know how Abrar's doing.
Well, dandy is like a excellent thing of its kind, like being excellent. Like, oh, so fine and excellent, basically.
Fine and excellent. I'll say fine and excellent. I don't know.
Okay. Abrar, how about yourself? How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing fine.
Excellent. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about prison, jail, criminal justice, reformation and reform, and also we're going to talk about rehabilitation within the prison and system, both privately and publicly in different forms of systems. We're going to talk a little bit about start off in America, since probably most of our audience watching us is going to be in America. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what happens in other countries. Like, a lot of us tend to think about what only happens in first world countries like Europe, Japan, America, Canada, but we don't really look into countries like Bangladesh. And Abrar, you told me you have some stuff on that, right?
Yes.
Excellent. So let's go ahead and jump right into this, shall we? So I want to know what you guys think about where do you stand on the current systems in your country first. Nick, since you're in America, let's start with you. What are your thoughts currently with the American system of prisons, with private prison systems, and things like that?
I would say it is not a system that is not a perfect system. It is currently a very flawed system, but compared to a lot of other countries' systems, it is still better than their systems. But as a country, it is still deeply flawed in a number of very important ways that affect society deeply and in very, very, I guess, bad ways, for lack of a better word, very negative ways. So I would say that the American prison system and the way that the criminal justice system operates in America has seen improvement, but due to society, for various reasons, societal and political, it remains kind of stuck in a way that has not really shifted dramatically as it needs to.
Okay.
So I could go more into that. Yes.
Sure, please.
Well,
Please do.
So most most crime doesn't there. There's crime all over the United States, but it's actually mostly concentrated in a handful of zip codes, areas, and that's where the police spend most of their time operating, places which are still flooded with police officers to a large extent, mostly Black and brown communities, due to a relatively high crime rate. In my city, for example, I believe the population is 40% Black, but 65 to 70% of the homicides are involve Black people. And so the police end up patrolling the Black neighborhoods much more than the white neighborhoods. And they just end up flooding those zones. And that's where a lot of the that's where a lot of the criminal justice systems ends up becoming the most involved, from minor tickets to infractions, because the police issue a lot of tickets and collect revenue in these communities, which they patrol much more than most other communities.
Okay.
And there are a lot of, people do drugs and things all over the place. In these communities, the police tend to be more around and tend to be arresting people more, and they end up being put in prison Some of them are private prisons. Some of them are normal or non-private prisons. But the end result is a lot of people are going to jail or prison for charges which are not necessarily forwarding the cause of culture or society in some ways. I would argue there has been some attempts to change that. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that I'm looking at a stat right now, actually, that shows. Whoa, scrolled way too far.
Your mic is really far away.
Can you hear me now?
Not really very well. No.
1 second. Keep talking.
So, I was just saying that there have been some attempts to remedy that. Drug treatment court. I can hear you somewhat well. A little bit better.
I can do this.
Nope, you still don't sound. Abrar, can you hear him pretty well?
Yes, kind of. Can you say something again?
Something again.
Yeah. Oh, now I can hear her.
What if I talk louder? What if I try this?
Try what?
Hello? We can't hear you at all. It might be on my end. I'm going to try rejoining him in, okay?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think with the headphones was better. Just put your headphones on. I think there was something wrong with Nick's camera. Is there any way you can pause the broadcast? Because, you know, like...
Okay. Well, we're going to continue on anyways. Hopefully you can hear what I'm saying. I don't know what's going on with the mic. But let me go ahead and share my screen for our audience to see. So one thing I've noticed is, hold on, which CSJ? Here we go. So as you can see from this right here, that's not it at all. That's not what I wanted. Okay, I'm just gonna do this entire screen. Share. Okay. This is what I was looking for right here. I'm trying to find this. So incarceration and unemployment, for Black women, the majority, and Black men, white women, and white men, they're all formerly incarcerated almost entirely. There's Nick. So a lot of the people in prison are actually people who just constantly reoffend, and I think that is a sign that our system is not working, at least in the United States. Because if they were working, why is it that most people that go to prison are people who've previously been there? And I'm assuming the people who are the general population will eventually move into the formerly incarcerated, because I guess I'm not sure why, but it makes the most sense to me.
You're asking why they reoffend?
Okay, so you see a statistic right here where it shows formerly incarcerated versus the general population. The general population, I'm saying,
Sure.
are just people who haven't offended yet, maybe because they're younger. But once they offend, they're gonna reoffend most likely because most of the offenders. So those are just the first time offenders who are eventually going to be reoccurring offenders, not necessarily just one time off crimes. Not generally the case, at least. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
The one of the reasons why they reoffend is frequently because once they get a criminal offense or a major criminal offense, it goes on their criminal record. And society, since we have things like background checks, society frequently, although yes, you can succeed even if you have a criminal record, your chances of succeeding or getting a normal job um, go down significantly. So if you have a criminal record, your chances are you won't have much else to do. In many cases, on average. So that's one of the reasons why the reoffending occurs so much. One of the reasons. Obviously, there's other reasons too.
I would say it's because the rehabilitation services also just don't work.
Yes, there is. Yeah,
Well, would you say
there is a lot.
rehab
A lot of regiments.
would you say the rehabilitation service programs don't work, or would you say there's a lack of rehabilitation services? Which one do you
Both.
think is the case?
It's both. We have them. It's just they're not very good. Like here's one right here: academic education, career technical education, substance use disorder treatment, employment preparation. So that's two for the same. And then you have cognitive behavioral therapy. What about people who don't need any of that, but something like how to get out of a gang, how to live a normal life, how to move into a different neighborhood, how to say no to crime, how to make a life without crime, and how to make money. Like there's many things that it's like we have the bare minimum for rehabilitation in America.
Well, I would say that more importantly, a lot of people are get on probation or parole, even if they don't get sentenced to jail, they end up on probation and parole. And probation and parole is a nightmare for the most part. It doesn't actually deal with people as they are and sets a lot of arbitrary rules around their lives, which
What do you mean?
especially which they can't. What?
What do you mean?
Which in terms of from things like drinking to cell phone usage to being seen with, say, their best their girlfriend lodged a complaint against them or something like that, and then she took it back and they were found guilty. Now he can't spend time with his girlfriend or he can't spend time with his kid for various reasons, and then he ends up reoffending because the felon or the criminal gets does not fit with the things that they want to do in their life, and fundamentally they're not necessarily willing to live with the probation and parole rules governing their lives 24/7 for sometimes months or years at a time. So chances are they will offend in one of those circumstances. And there's so many rules. They have to check in at this date. They have to have this, they have to not do this. They have to not be doing this not be talking to people. They have to not be drinking. And anytime they get caught doing those things, it's back to prison. So, or they're going to prison in the first place. So it's very hard to rehabilitate people because probation and parole is essentially kind of like prison outside of prison for the most part.
Look at this right here.
So
Besides Model Learning Center, MLC, identity. What the fuck is identity? And re-entry services. The biggest thing for at least Montgomery County is religious services. Is the biggest rehabilitation thing. That's how they rehabilitate you, is with books of holy texts. You also have this right here: the academic education enduring imprisonment. Most people in prison, no further education taken or completed. Either have GEDs or have high school diplomas. You don't really see people who have gone to college and gotten a bachelor's or associate degree getting these, doing these crimes because you can do something with your life. I'm assuming. Um, what's your thoughts on these kinds of statistics when you see these, like the fact that no further education taken or completed, GED and remedial education having, and high school diploma GED being the highest offenders of crime?
Well, I think it's a lot of work to go back and do these things frequently. And if you already have like a child or are heavily involved in various things, the chance of you would do them isn't very high. And
Why is that?
that is one of the main um, inadequate childcare. There have been a big push for things like universal childcare, but there's enormous pushback against that. So again, these problems are political in nature and also societal in nature. Lack of people to take care of the child so that someone could go to school. Lack of an income source so that they can have some income while they try to complete their GED, or try to get some sort of degree. So you can succeed, but as long as if you stack long odds against an individual and then tell them to, well, hopefully it works out for you, and don't provide them enough supportive services, chances are they won't succeed.
What would you say is the remedy for such a thing?
Like
how do you make things better for people?
Probably providing some of those services without worrying as much about subsidizing poor people who society doesn't like very much because they view them as leeching off the system to some extent. So there's a cultural belief that gets in the way of that. And there's regular belief that they're abusing the system, or they're criminals, they don't deserve help, and there is actual real maybe more targeted things around criminals. So people looking for universal child care, but what might help is more child care programs specifically for people who are in prison or on probation or at risk. People might agree to those more just to assist those individuals in trying to achieve a life goal that would not involve going back to prison. But again, we're running into political and social issues.
But of course, we're running into political and social issues because those are completely intertwined with everything we do, though, right?
Yeah, well, the question is, can you get around? What is sellable to the public? What might the public support? What might they not support? A lot of people have the attitude that someone committed crime, they should be locked up. If they work hard enough, they can get out of it, and that's what they need to do. And that is the general assumption, which some people do the work, they find a relative to take care of their child, they go to school, and they're successful. It does happen. But as long as the societal attitude is, well, that person did succeed, that person worked hard, and I want to just talk about that person, you're going to still see the vast majority of people not succeeding. And so the statistical, as long as people like more interested in the handful of people that do succeed and say that, though, we should uplift those people and ignore everybody else, I think that it's hard to change anything. But
okay,
that's what I would say.
What do you think, Abrar?
About what?
About what Nick's saying, the statistics being shown. I know you're in Bangladesh, but like globally,
I guess
what do you?
one of the reasons why you see these statistics and you see why your rehabilitation programs don't work, although it's a step in the right direction. The thing is that we have this concept of personal responsibility. We have this concept that criminals are there. There are something wrong with people who are criminals. They're they are basically less human than normal people. You mentioned something like religious services and cognitive behavior therapy, right? So the thing with cognitive behavior therapy is it attempts to modify your behavior. But one of the main reasons why people get pushed into a life of crime is not because they are personally evil. It's because of the kind of society they live in. It's because of poverty, right? So we don't have like there isn't an enough emphasis to make sure that after the person gets out of prison, he is in a better place. He's not exposed uh, to the same bad environment that initially pushed him into a life of crime. Uh, we are we're only concerned about like changing his behavior, or we're only concerned about treating him like he committed an evil act using his own free will, you know. Uh,
Well,
so I think that's the root of the problem there,
there's,
because we,
but oh, sorry.
yeah, I mean, like as Nick said, like what happens after you get out of prison, get inside, you get into a different kind of prison. uh, uh, there's this famous TV show in your country. It's called Orange is the New Black, and I remember this quotation, right? Prison tortures you even after you get out of it, right? So you have this extremely strict parole laws, and then you don't get a job after getting out of prison because of background checks, and you are thrown into the same environment that initially pushed you into a life of crime. You're thrown back right into poverty. You're thrown back right into the society where there are gangs and drug dealers. So I mean, uh,
There are also the other problem is there are actual legitimate predators, which the police, which the prisons keep out of society, which are need to be keeping out. And frequently, when there's news coverage of major horrific crimes and anything that maybe helped out the criminal or led to them being released, um, there's no one who's running there. There's no one who ever runs in America on a soft time crime platform. They run on reform programs, some of which lead to things going badly, and some person gets out and commits horrific crimes. And the general attitude is that these people need to be taken out of society. No one wants to stand. No one wants to. Everyone mostly just wants to be protected. So trying to help out the criminals, trying to make them have an easier life maybe so they can get out, so they can actually be a functional member of society, make life easier for them. That is not a popular stance to make when most people who are not criminals somewhat rightly think, well, I didn't do anything wrong, so why should I be worrying about these people? Well, these people have messed up. I just want to get them out of my life. I don't want to have to worry about them. So I'm going to support politicians who are going to make sure it's really hard for them to get along with their lives. I'd say that's a frequent problem as well. That sort of mindset, or that it's not even a mindset. It's a sort of the way that society functions, I would say.
Okay.
well, there's one more thing that I would one more point that I would like to raise. In your I guess in the United States, like children as young as 13 years old are often tried as adults for murder and are sentenced to lifetime imprisonment without parole in adult facilities. And 16-year-old murderers can be sentenced to death, right? So that is another aspect of your prison system I was hoping you would address. Uh, but if you compare that to Germany, in Germany, like children under 14 cannot be punished at all, and juveniles under 18 cannot be sentenced uh, as adults, and people
Well,
under 21 can be treated as juveniles if the court finds them to be immature. So I think Germany is ahead of the United States regarding like juvenile crimes and stuff. So
but that's not. But see, that's a question of, again, we're going back into a question of societal values. Because in America, there have been young people who have committed crimes that have just shocked the conscience, and sometimes they've reoffended, maybe killed someone, maybe killed someone else. Then things like that have occurred, and society has. There have been specific cases, mass shootings, where politicians can run on saying, well, you don't want this person in your community, you don't want them near you, you don't want them, and that is and for many people are saying, well, we do need to not have these people in our community. So what someone thinks is progress, someone else might think is, well, that's actually not progress. That's letting someone who committed serious crimes get out, and I don't want that. So we do have to think about what is progress is somewhat defined by someone's point of view or social thought process.
Well, who is the biggest, at least in America, Nick? Who's the biggest contributor to doing most of the non-rehabilitation systems in our prison system? Who do you think is actually causing most of the damage?
Well, I mean, people do point to the private prison lobbying group, which does have some significant power and is very interested in keeping their status quo of private prisons. I mean, they do have a direct monetary incentive to do that, but I would. But as much as people want to blame those lobbyists, people who are interested in keeping people locked up, I would say largely there remains fundamental cultural forces that just don't agree with reforms to some extent. And
so basically conservatives.
I would say conservatives and liberals not thinking through their plans sufficiently when they implement them, like bail reform. Instead of trying to give people maybe more tools, things like bail reform saying, well, this is unfair, so we need to get rid of it, instead of, say, trying to give more tools to people trying to get out, you end up coming up with ideas that might lead to, sometimes, very occasionally, lead to people getting out of prison and maybe committing more crimes, or when they're charged with a crime with bail reform, there were some people who went and robbed some places after they got out because of allegedly bail reform, after they had been charged with a crime. So sometimes liberal policies have not always been thought through to the, and sometimes things like drug treatment court, which are other ideas, have not, people go to drug treatment court to get out of drug charges, and sometimes the drug charges are not, frequently they don't complete those rehabilitation services as well, because you still aren't meeting the criminal where they are, basically, and the system sets a bunch of rules, and if the vast majority of the populace can't comply with the rules, it doesn't really matter. There isn't a lot of assessment around what would make the criminal what would make the criminal succeed as a normal citizen. There's a lot of kind of attempts, but there isn't really any systemic kind of plan in place, and that leads to public backlash from a lot of reforms, I would say. So, yeah, I guess mostly conservatives, but kind of a mix of what the conservative political push around, and then poor planning from some liberal reformers.
Well, yeah, I don't think.
I sent you an article. Can you share the screen? Like after you say your point, I want to show you something. Just
opening it now.
Yeah, but finish your point first.
Oh, I forgot. Crime stats compare key data on Germany and United States.
Can you make it bigger?
Yeah, 1 second.
No, not that one. Just the table.
Yeah, right. I know. I'm scrolling down.
Okay, make the table bigger. I don't think it's visible to the audience. Bigger, even bigger.
That's pretty big.
We'll make it a little bit bigger. Yeah. Okay, so I think one way of reducing crime or making rehabilitation work is increasing your age of criminal responsibility. So look at Germany. The age of criminal responsibility is 14, right? And in United States, it's 6-year-old. So a 6-year-old can be criminally responsible. And but let's look at the murder and rape rates. Can you scroll down? Scroll down.
I can barely see it.
You have to. Yeah, just scroll down. You need to scroll down. Scroll, keep scrolling. Yeah, okay, you scroll a
Okay,
little bit
you
more up.
said rape and murder rates. They're right here.
No, down, no, not this one. Okay,
Hold on.
e
Which one are you talking about?
wait.
Violent crime rapes and violent crime murder
Okay,
rates.
the last two, the last
Last
three,
two.
last three.
Last
All
three.
right. Okay, see, so violent murder rate. See, the murder rate per million people is 8.44 in Germany, whereas it's 42.01 in United States. And and the and in case of rapes, you see like 7,000 rapes per year in Germany and more than 80,000 in United States. And rape per million people in Germany is only 94, but in United States is 274.04. So I think, and you can see in Germany the crime rates are much lower, like significantly lower compared to the United States. And you can also see that, however, the age of criminal responsibility is higher in Germany. Like only if you have to be above 14 to be criminally responsible, but in United States, a 6-year-old can be charged with a crime. That is absurd, you know. So I think that is one thing the United States could work on, is like increasing the age of criminal responsibility.
Right.
Uh, what would you say about that? Right? I mean, do you think?
I would agree. Luckily, though, like the violent crime rate, some of the stuff here showing the stats shows America going down a little bit and Germany starting to go up. That
Yeah.
said, it's still quite high compared to Germany, and it's kind of gross at how high it is. Violent crimes rate ranked first, 11 times more likely than Germany. That is insane. 7,000 to the 84,000.
Well,
So
as I said, oh, sorry.
so look,
Um,
before it will take a lot of time and resources to reform your prisons, and you cannot get rid of prisons because criminals need to be locked up, but you also need to fix your prisons. But fixing them will take a lot of time, and you just pointed out, the moment you get inside prison, you're more likely to reoffend. It spoils you, right? So I
Yep.
think
yeah,
the fastest thing that you can do is increase the age of criminal responsibility. That way less people get inside prisons, you know.
It'll be
So
less exposed to this shit there too.
yeah, and
yeah,
you can see the evidence in front of you. In Germany, you see, it's the age of responsibility is more than 2 times. And
well, there was a public. What happened in America, at least in many states, is there was public outrage over youth committing major crimes, and that was one of the reasons why things like the death penalty or the criminal age. I don't know if it was the criminal age, but at least the death penalty was moved down, or life in prison was moved down to lower ages, is because of public outrage over youth committing major offenses or getting away or committing some very heinous act. And it would show up on tabloids or covers, and very few politicians would say, well, we shouldn't punish them more. And that's where the media really plays a role in some of this stuff, is outrage over crimes that lead to certain criminal justice policies. You know, I don't know if Germany's had, a 14-year-old kill a bunch of people, and that's
Probably not.
yeah, but the thing is that
I gotta go. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're fine.
right, but the thing is that it didn't work now, did it? You know,
Nope.
you decrease the age of criminal responsibility and and it did not reduce your crimes. Now you're still ranked like number one, probably. Wait, are you number one?
In what?
Yeah, you're in case of
In rape, we're number
okay,
one.
you're ranked ninth in rapes per million people and ranked 43rd in murders per million people. You know, I mean, decreasing the criminal. I mean, I understand the outrage and the initial, and that was probably the knee-jerk response, like decrease the age of criminal responsibility, but it
Yeah, but popular
obviously did
opinion
not
doesn't
work.
determine reality, though.
Yeah,
Well, no,
I mean,
popular opinion shouldn't determine reality. Unfortunately, in this
Yeah.
case, it did.
Well, popular opinion and also knee-jerk reactions, like, okay, he did this, kill him, you know,
Yeah.
right? These are
When
these are
Nick said
knee-jerk
that,
reactions. Yeah.
I started thinking like, so a 6-year-old probably killed 3 people, and they're like, put the 6-year-old to death.
I mean, seriously, I mean, I mean, even we don't have that rule. A 6-year-old will never be criminally responsible in Bangladesh, as far as I know. I mean, this is just insane. How can you hold a 6-year-old? Okay,
Yeah.
no, I'm not sure about that, whether a 6-year-old is criminally responsible in Bangladesh or not. Anything is possible here. But
Let's find
come
out.
on, it's a 6-year-old. Oh, age of criminal responsibility in Bangladesh. Google that. Okay. It's above 7 years of age, so it's still horrible, but it's better than the United States.
Yeah, it's 9 in Bangladesh.
Oh wait, it's 9. Okay, that's still ridiculous, but that's actually more progressive than the United States. I can't believe that I'm saying this.
Get your shit together, America.
Well,
I'm
do
curious. Let's find out what
should we?
caused that.
What caused what?
USA age of not consent. Uh, age of criminal responsibility. 6 years old. Um, I don't really see anything. Let's find out. Nope, I can't. No, there's no citation there.
All
Interesting.
right, so do you want to
Crime
discuss the
levels.
prison programs in Bangladesh
Yeah,
since we
yeah. Let's
brought
do
up
that.
Bangladesh?
Yeah.
Okay, so I sent you 2 articles. Can you find them?
Yep, I have them right here. Prison system in Bangladesh and prisoners' rights in reality in Bangladesh.
All right, so like those are my sources of information. So I wanted to like give them the adequate credit before uh, lifting stuff from their articles. So those are my sources of information, and these articles have been written by people who are lawyers, so they know about the criminal justice system. And so here's the thing, like there are 68 prisons in Bangladesh. 13 of them are central prisons and 55 are district prisons. And the official capacity of the prison system according to the government is 40,944 as of February 2020. And according to the statistics given by the Bangladesh Society for Enforcement of Human Rights, between 1,150 and 1,200 prisoners enter and leave the system every day. So these are the official government statistics, right? So wait, did I send you a picture? No, I didn't. Wait, let me just send you a picture.
Interesting. However, Thomas
Wait.
Jefferson's clause protesting slavery was deleted.
All right. So can you? I just sent you an image. Can you open it?
Yeah.
Like make it bigger. So you see the total capacity. Can you scroll down a little bit? Yeah. See the total capacity. I mean, according to the government, it was 40,000, but in reality, it's actually 27,294. That's the capacity of. Uh, that's the total prison capacity in Bangladesh. But the number of prisoners you have is 84,922. So you can see the problem with that. So there's overcrowding in prisons, right?
Yeah.
Because you're exceeding the capacity by almost, I don't know, around 4 times or something like that, but 3 to 4 times. But but the scary part is overcrowding is the least will be the least of your concerns if you ever end up in a prison in Bangladesh.
What do you mean?
So the so you'll have much problems that are much bigger than just overcrowding or a lack of space. So let me just tell you. Um, so you don't have adequate food supply in the prisons, right? You're not going to get adequate food. That's number one. Number two, if you don't have enough money, if you don't have enough political power and you end up in prison, uh, you'll have a very difficult time. You will be bullied by the other inmates. You'll be sexually and mentally harassed. You will be harassed by the guards, and sometimes, and there are several cases of death inside prisons, and you have cases of children staying with their detained mothers in jail, and you have deaths while in jail custody,
Hmm.
and uh, there are extrajudicial killings, there are arbitrary arrests, there are politically motivated violence and killings. um, there's an impunity for security forces, there are physical and psychological torture, and you have lengthy pre-trial detention. The thing is that in Bangladesh, 72% of the prisoners are actually legally innocent. They're just waiting for their trial, and the amount of time that they have to wait for the trial, that is actually more than the uh, prison sentencing they would receive if they were found to be guilty.
Okay.
So that's the scary part. So you have to wait for your trial for longer than your potential prison sentence. And there is also violence and against and restrictions on journalists, right? So I mean, journalists cannot go inside prisons to inspect the conditions. So that is another problem, and there's also infringement on religious freedom. There's also extensive government corruption, and there is violence against women and children. Like female prisoners, they're often raped and sexually harassed by the male security. And there's also trafficking in of women and children. So women and children are trafficked. Uh, they're brought in inside prisons, so the male prisoners can have sex with them. And there's also limitation on worker rights. So those are some of the problems. And you know, the scary part is like, uh, you can be uh, if you don't have enough money, if you're unable to bribe the police, and you end up in prison, you might end up they will even threaten you to slap you with a terrorist case. I mean, they will accuse you of terrorism. I mean, that's as bad as it can get.
There's also
So
the
that,
prisoners lost in jail, like
yeah.
Rahim here, not his real name, of course, was taken to prison and then forgotten. So that's probably partially why people are also. Didn't you say that the prison system's supposed to be temporary there, but people get lost, and that's what causes the overcrowding, right?
Well, the lost thing is that, like I told you about the lengthy pre-trials, you have to
Yeah.
wait inside the prison for a really long time before you get your trial date. The thing with this Rohim person is that he's he was summoned to court, right? But he was supposed to appear on court on a particular date, but the order to appear on court never reached the prison, right? So he never appeared on court, and he was marked as an absentee, and uh, so his trial never happened. So he stayed in prison for a really long time. So
I see. It's horrible.
that's what it means for prisoners to get lost. Like uh, their order to appear on court never reaches the jail. So I mean, that's what happens in our country. Like, I mean, uh, and the scary part is, like, after you can see that overcrowding is the least of your concerns. I mean, you can end up with I mean, you can get inside prison with a with a charge for a minor crime, like, let's say, theft, or I don't know, destruction of property, and you could end up with a terrorist charge because you are unable to uh, bribe the police, and you don't have enough political power. And so that's just a summary of
Well,
how
here's your
prison
other one,
systems
the
are in.
prisoners' rights in reality in Bangladesh. We could look at this one too.
Yeah.
So it actually states the rights, obligations of the prisoners and authorities of the prison. The Bengal Jail Code, 1864, now amended as the Prisons Act, 1894. The Prisoners Act of 1900, and the Constitution of Bangladesh. That's not a lot. That's all old.
Yeah.
Very old.
So here's how we can fix the system in Bangladesh. I mean, it's easy, but no one is going to do that. Number one, we have like outdated laws, like since the British colonial era, and the laws have not evolved. So that is one thing we should look at. And number two, you need to give journalists more freedom to enter inside jails and inspect. And you need to stop arresting people for petty crimes, and because your prison systems are already overcrowded. And the government must make some investments to build a more hygienic and safe environments. And you should have government officials regularly inspecting the prisons to check, to maintain standards. And you really have to do something about the corruptions where police can be easily bribed, and if you have political power, then you're treated like a king inside prison, but if you don't, then they'll slap you with false allegations and false terrorist charges. So you also need to fix this corruption problem. So I mean, that is I mean, these suggestions are present in the articles that you pulled up. So I mean, that's how you can fix the prison systems in Bangladesh. So yeah, so that's what's going on in Bangladesh, and it's a horror story compared to Germany and even the United States. But that's the reality of a prison system in a third world country.
Well, how do you fix a third world country? How do you even get started to make a wave of
Well, well,
changes
I,
there? Do
well,
you have
I
to
told
try
you.
to work your way into politics?
Uh, well, I told you. Like, I mean, you have to have. I mean, it's up to the government to fix it, right? I mean, you have, like I said, you have to stop putting people in jail for petty crimes, and you have to. The law must evolve. You have to stop following the uh, laws from the colonial era when the British invaded us. Yeah, I mean, the laws have to change. The laws never evolved, and you have to give journalists more freedom to enter the prisons and uh, and inspect the conditions and see how people are treated. And so it's going to be a long process. I don't know where you even start. I mean, perhaps it takes just one government who gives a fuck about the country and just makes these changes. Like the government can just do it in uh, 1 second if they want. Like it does
Why
not
don't
take a
they?
lot. I mean, it does
Is
not
it
take a lot for them to just give journalists more freedom to enter the uh, prisons to inspect them. And a- and you don't need to spend a single dime. In fact, you'll be saving money by not arresting people for petty crimes. I mean, that way you'll be saving money and resources, so you'll actually gain money by doing that, right? But I think there's a lack of incentive to, and the for some reason, and the government in our country, like in a third world country, is very different from the United States. The government does not actually give a fuck about anything. I mean, in your country, the
mm.
government at least gives a fuck about public opinion and being the good guy and whatnot. But
Well,
in third world
well, they
countries,
care about
you
whatever's the loudest, and most popular, loudest opinion. But yeah, it's
yeah, but in our country,
how do
the
you
government does not care about anything. It just cares about making
what?
money and stuff.
But wouldn't there be if they amended themselves to be more like America? Like, let's say, so we have states here. If you were to become something like America, what would you call Bangladesh? Like the United Divisions of Bangladesh? Wouldn't they start making more
I,
money if they
I, I don't
start
think I
mimicking
don't
us?
think I don't think you'll ever be. Bangladesh is already a very small country, so if you have like United
Uh,
Divisions of Bangladesh, I mean, I don't know how that would work. It's already a tiny country. I mean,
True. Well, make it like kind of like how I don't really know how Bangladesh works. I just like it
well,
doesn't seem like what
uh,
they're doing is really making them the money they could make though.
well, Bangladesh does not work. That's the idea.
Uh, It doesn't work. It's a failed project.
Well, so far, I mean, it does not take a lot to make it work, but just stop arresting people for stupid crimes,
Yeah.
for petty crimes. But that for some reason that just does not happen. I mean, if it does not happen in the United States, like, I mean, uh, in you could use the same logic in United States. Stop arresting people for petty crimes and stop and raise the age of criminal responsibility. It's that easy. But I guess there are other factors to consider, or I guess there are other issues which prevent the government from taking these small steps. And I mean, if it's if it's difficult for the United States to take this small step, I mean, it will also be very difficult in a third world country like ours. So I don't know what's preventing the government from taking these tiny steps, but uh,
Hmm.
whatever is preventing the government, I mean, it's they're present in the United States as well, right? I mean, because your government is also not taking that tiny step. But
Yeah, it really isn't.
in Germany, that in countries like Germany, things are much better. Like they show us that the prison systems, I mean, it can be fixed. Like there are some obvious tried and tested solutions. Like one of them being, and at the risk of sounding repetitive, I'll say like increase the age of criminal responsibility. That is, and stop arresting people for petty crimes. So like it's that simple, but no one is going to do that.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, that was a long rant.
Yeah, it kind of was, but it was very informative. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think like if I was you, like I'd be trying to figure out like what could I do to try to if like
Well, I
venture
cannot
from
do anything. Like, I mean, people who can do something don't want to do anything. So, I mean, I would have to enter politics and manage to not be assassinated or put into jail and
yeah, especially
maintain
with
my
your
innocence,
especially
you know.
being an atheist, like that would be very dangerous over there too to go into
Okay, I don't
politics.
identify as, I no longer identify as an atheist.
Oh, are you a
So,
Muslim now?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
And so are you.
Oh yeah, praise Allah. It's like a weird feeling in my my mouth and my tongue when I say that. Allah.
Okay, don't. Uh, you're going to get us both into trouble, Autumn. No more religion talk.
No, I'm talking more about
No,
like
no,
the way
no,
you
no,
know,
no, 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 no.
like saying peanut butter.
Don't. Okay, uh,
So
we'll both
yeah,
get into trouble. Don't
all right.
don't even go there.
I can make it worse. So
Yeah, you'll
so
make it
with
worse for
America
me.
though, we
You're not going to make it worse for yourself.
yeah, I know. In America though, we have like it seems mostly the private system is endorsed by the Republican GOP party because and I don't know why they do this. I think it's
I,
because they're very gun ho about small, the government shouldn't have a hand in certain things and the prisons being one of them. I think that's just idiotic because
well, I think
if you're
private.
breaking laws that were created by the government should be punishing you because it's their laws. Why
Well,
would you hire out someone else to do the punishing for you? That just seems
well,
odd.
uh, I mean, this might sound stupid, and I'm not an expert, but a country like Bangladesh could use private prison systems because
Really?
clearly the government can. I mean, I told you the prisons are already overcrowded, right? I mean, and
Yeah.
uh, so if you have private companies building prisons, so I mean, you'll at least solve the overcrowding problem.
Hmm.
I,
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
that.
I mean,
That's not really
then
an
you'll have
issue in America, though. And the other thing
then
you
you'll
could
have
do though is you could make it to where certain things aren't always illegal. Like you shouldn't be going to prison for arbitrarily. That's just not
yeah.
helping with the occupation or the occupancy of the prison system.
Well, you know what? I take back what I just said. Like, I think we should not have. Uh, I mean, private prison systems. I mean, I think they're in the long run they're a very bad idea because there is this profit motive and uh, people will try to cut corners because they'll be owned by businessmen and stuff. So I don't think
Yeah,
private prisons are that's not a solution. I think the solution
I
is
don't
to
think
make
it is.
you should not create more prisons. You should make sure that less people stay in the existing ones. You should make sure that less people are inside prisons, not create more space for more people to enter. You know, that would
Yeah,
be counterproductive. That would make things worse.
yeah,
So,
that's what
so
I
the
think
thing
at
is,
least.
so when you think about overcrowding in prisons, like I think we should not be asking that how can we create more room for prisoners. We should be asking that why are there so many of them? Why are so many people locked up?
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, so I take back what I said about private prisons. Yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Okay. Yeah, because in America it is a profit thing, but I don't think like the GOP is doing it because they're making money. I think partially it's because they don't think the government should be doing certain things, and their line of where the government should be able to do stuff is constantly shifted in the Overton window, and it's kind of like when you see like a libertarian or a Republican conservative saying they're for small government, but then they support like the Texas abortion bill or the Supreme Court ruling in a certain way. And it's like you shouldn't have a say in that because you're not for that. But when it comes to the prison system, it should always be public because there's more with input from the public. That is, and the reason why is because if you I would say that if you do private prisons, not only do you create a profit motive, you're going to create more incentive to imprison more people. You're going to have even more problems because that's how they make their money is based off the prison system. And if it's the government's laws you're breaking, the government should be the one punishing you within reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
So
what do you think?
well,
I don't.
I think that makes sense to me. I think the issue is like uh, the road to fixing things is simple, but no one is willing to walk that road for some reason. I
Yeah.
mean, well, do you think we should end it here?
Yeah, we can do that. I think we did sufficient amount of information here. Thank you everyone for coming to the Fighting Anti-Intellectualism podcast today. Thank you, Nick, for coming. I'm sorry you had to leave early, but things happen. Thank you, Abrar, for coming on. It was a pleasure talking to you and hearing a bit more about your country. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the show. If you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, and hit the notification bell for more information from us, just in case you don't get it all. We're gonna go ahead and call it quits. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Abrar. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.